So I just asked Andy the same question. Hank showed that he can be a threat with his legs on Saturday, but he's obviously a guy that you can't do without. You don't want him taking too many hits. How much do you want him running the ball in this offense?
I think if they're going to load the box with extra people and you're in the shotgun, you're going to have to show that the quarterback is willing to run, but my theory on that's always been we want him to be a runner, but not the runner, so hopefully we can just use him in ways to keep the defense honest. But he's got to also protect himself. That's part of the deal. I mean, he's got to be able to get a bounce, slide. I thought he did a pretty good job of those things last week.
You guys got a lot of guys involved in the running game on Saturday, found some creative ways to get rushing yards. I'm curious, is that sustainable, or in this offense, do you need rushing yardage the traditional way?
That's a good question. I mean, I think my first answer would be like, yards are yards, right? Like, does it really matter where they come from? That'd be probably more of a question for you guys. But, yeah, I think we all would love to be able to, line up under center and do it the old school way. And, with the style we're in right now offensively and what we're doing, I think that it's all hands on deck. And, whatever we can do to gain consistent run yardage is what we're going to do going forward. And if that's as you guys would put it, the traditional way, then we'll do it that way. And if it's, getting guys, the ball, we'll do it whatever we can to get running yards and keep the offense balanced. That's what we're going to try and do.
And I'm curious, in terms of an air raid offense, it certainly seems like you guys have the personnel to throw the ball 50 or 60 times a game. But I believe your quote last week was, that's not championship football. Why is it not championship football?
I mean, I just think if you look at the history of college football and you look at the teams that have won national championships and consistently been in championship games, and at the end of the year, you're going to need to run the ball to win football games. You can throw the ball to score points, but you're going to need to run the ball to win games. And I think that's something we try to balance all the time. We have a talented receiver group and a good quarterback, and we could throw it 50, 60 times a game, and that'd be fun. But I think too much of anything can be a bad thing, right? I mean, you got to find some balance and some capacity. And I think you look at guys like Lincoln Riley that came from an air raid system but got to Oklahoma, and you think of the success he's had, he's really developed a really good run game in his offense. And that's, I think, what separated him maybe from that tree a little bit. So obviously the air raid system is an extremely successful system and one that puts up a lot of points and a lot of yards. So by no means am I saying that I don't think it's a good brand of football, but I just think if you look at the traditional years and years and years of teams that have won the national championship, usually they're going to have some semblance of a running game.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep. Thanks, Ron.
How we doing, Tim?
What's up, Jay?
Tim, could you kind of explain the decision that took you out of the booth and down to the sideline to call the game? And it sounds like the players were very influential in making that happen.
I can't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday, Jay, but Coach Avalos, he meets with the leadership group every week and just they talk about a lot of things that are going on with the program. And I think that, he just asked, everyone kind of, hey, what are the thoughts going forward? What are some things we can improve? And at that moment, I think a lot of the offensive guys just brought up that they really wanted me to come on the field for various reasons. And so he came into my office shortly after that and said, hey, I got really good news. The players really care about you. And they said they love you and they want you to be on the field with them. So we're going to make that switch. And like I told the guys after the game, it was a meaningful moment for me, just being a new guy in town, trying to earn the trust of the players. Hearing that last week definitely gave me a boost of energy and wanting to be down there with those guys. So it was a cool moment for me for sure.
Do you like calling a game from the sideline? And did you have, a different set of eyes in the skies relaying, whatever you wanted to see from above to you? Because, it's obviously, different than calling the game from above.
Yeah, I've always called the game from the field. So for the last 10 years, I've always been calling the game from the field. And but we also didn't have as much help at the FCS level as we have here. So some of the reasons for being on the field back then was we just didn't have a lot of assistants and a lot of grad assistants and quality control coaches. We just didn't have those guys. So I was always on the field so I could communicate with the quarterback and I could communicate with the offense. But when we got here, we had a lot more help, and we had talked as a staff and made the decision for me to go up in the booth. And I think when you're up in the booth, you obviously can see everything a lot easier, but you lose, I think, just the feeling of just the energy and the vibe of the team. And sometimes when you're on the sideline, you got a better feel for how guys are feeling, where their confidence level's at. I can have direct communication with everybody in the offense. And we're all learning the offense still together, right? Players and some of the assistants. So I think some of the arguments from the players was just, I obviously know the offense, and I can make those adjustments quickly and get that communicated to them, one-on-one. And I think that was something that they really felt like would help. So.
When it comes to a guy like Davis Cutter, that there are guys on your roster that probably know more about football than other guys on your roster. Where does Davis kind of, rank in terms of his knowledge of the game? And do you think one day that, once his playing days are done, he might be make a successful coach?
I definitely think his football IQ's at the top there with all the guys. I've become pretty close with his dad too, just being in town. He's been someone that'll shoot me text messages and we'll talk after games and stuff. And most of the time when I meet, kids of coaches, the first thing they say is there's no way I'm going to be a coach, because you know how much time you've been away from your dad, when you were watching your dad coach. But if he wants to be a coach, I think he'd be extremely successful. But I always tell the players, I hope you can find something to do before coaching, because there's a lot more things you can do that maybe get you around your family a little bit more and those kind of things. But if he wanted to go down that road, he'd be tremendous.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah. All right, Jay.
How's it going, Tim?
What's up, EJ?
Hey, 16 in a row. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, man. Dang. Oh, it's been a rough couple weeks, BJ, but enjoy it. We'll be back. We'll get some things ironed out there.
It'll probably be all for naught, one game and we'll be done. So I'm trying to enjoy it now while I can.
Do you want the Dodgers or do you want the Giants in the 1-game playoff?
Well, I don't want to waste everyone's time, but I will quickly say I would rather
Dodgers or the Giants, not the Cardinals.
I would rather play the Dodgers in the 1 game, because in a 5-game series, we have a much better chance of beating the Giants.
See, that's what I told Rid. I was like, you got to play the Dodgers in the 1 game and just go all in. Try to beat Scherzer, and if you can, then you got a shot, because you're not going to beat them in 5 games.
If you told me 1 game, Wainwright versus Scherzer, to move on, I'd take my chances. So
throw the old man on the mound and see what he has.
I'd rather not deal with the other guys for 5 games. Hey, you told me and Ron after the game just how proud that made you, but why was that? And what was that moment like when you found out that, and just why did it make you so proud that in terms of that they wanted you to do that?
I think for me, coaching goes far beyond how many points you score and how many games you win. Like I've told you guys before, I'm going to be judged by you guys on wins and losses and how many rushing yards we have and all that every week, right? And that's cool. But I really judge myself as what kind of relationships can I build with the players, and can those relationships be meaningful, and can I help them become better men? And being a newer coach here, a newer guy on the staff at a successful program, I just really wanted to build relationships, and I felt like that moment for me was important, because I felt like it showed that I had developed relationships with the players, and they wanted me to be on the field with them to share those emotions within the game. And so I think just as a coach, that's a check in the box, like, okay, we're doing some things right. Maybe we're not running the ball as well as everybody wants, or we're not scoring as many points as everybody wants. But the players see how much I care about them. And I think if we can do that and we care about each other, then we can accomplish anything as long as we keep working hard.
How do you evaluate production? I know I called it mop-up duty a few weeks ago, but were the games out of reach, and a guy like Tyler Crow is obviously doing some things in the running game. He's your second leading rusher, but he hasn't really had any opportunities, when the score was still in doubt, I guess, so to speak. How do you evaluate that? And is he a guy with his style and stuff that maybe deserves more of a look earlier in games?
That's a tough one, BJ, because I think when you're in the 4-minute offense, you're going to be in some different run sets and some different formational things, and the defenses are going to be doing things differently than they would do in the middle of the game. But I was super proud of our 4-minute offense and how our guys did line up and just pound the rock and got a couple first downs. And our goal is always to have the ball and keep the ball at the end of the game. I think that Crow's got a good role on what he does. Just like I think Van Buren's got a really important role. I mean, that dude in the short yardage goal line is pretty impressive with what he's been able to accomplish So hopefully what we try to do is just give everyone a role and everyone a niche that they can be successful at. Just like George is going to get most of the carries during the game, but we feel like George has earned that too, right? Just like Crow has earned those carries at the end of the game because of what him and Andrew can bring in short yardage goal line situations. So I think what Crow has proved, BJ, is that when we put him in there, he's going to do it the best he can and do the things that we're asking him to do. And if that role grows, it'll grow. But I do know whatever role he's in, he's thriving in it, whether that's special teams or short yardage or whatever we're using him as.
And final one for me, and I hate to single out, a guy for something negative, but there were obviously some issues with the snaps in the last game. There were 2 where it didn't look like Hank was even ready. At least 2 that he bobbled. There were several others, way above his head. What can be done at this point in the season with the snapping, and how big of a concern is that to you?
Huge concern. Definitely, I would say when the game ended, that was the first thing that we talked about as an offensive staff. We got to get that fixed. I mean, that's just, even going back to the UCF game, how many issues we had with that. And so we believe in Dante, and he's a guy that bleeds blue. And we're going to, work on his fundamentals and technique to get to the bottom of kind of what's going on there with the snaps. Obviously, there's a lot of things going on with a center on every play, making calls, stances, seeing the defense, but starts first and foremost with the snap. So that's definitely something we're going to work hard to get figured out this week, because we can't be dealing with those kind of issues. And Hank made some tremendous plays and showed some tremendous composure in those situations. I mean, the one on our own 1 yard line is really a game-saving play when he caught that ball and got the ball to Davis. I thought that was one of the bigger plays in the game, but we don't want to be doing that consistently, BJ. We got to get that fixed for sure.
Appreciate it, Tim.
Thanks, man.
Rick, Will, and Mike.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Rick.
Let's talk about Nevada. This is a team that's looked pretty good at times this year. Good win for them over Cal. Talk to us about Nevada. What's their defense look like? How are you going to take these guys on?
Yeah, I think they're a really well-coached unit. They got a lot of confidence in what they're doing defensively right now. I think they're in the top, if not the top 10, top 20 in sacks. So they're creating a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and they're really good against the pass. I think they're ranked also in the top 20 or top 10 against the pass. So we're going against an elite unit, a really good defense. Obviously, they got a really good offense and a really good quarterback too. So we got our hands full this week, but I think, this conference is pretty dang talented. Utah State was undefeated and beat a Pac-12 team. And now we're going to play another great team that beat a Pac-12 team. So we know what we're up against. It's going to be a great challenge where we're looking forward to it.
You're getting thrown into a rivalry game here. I mean, even when you were at UC Davis, you look up the freeway a little bit up there at those guys in Reno. So how does it feel to get thrown into a rivalry game like this? And what do you think about it?
Yeah, that's college football, right, Rick? I mean, that's why we do this, is to be part of these special games. I know Coach Miller and Coach Venable are bringing me up to speed on the amount of emotional emotions that go into this rivalry. And it obviously is an important game to everybody. And but that's cool, man. That's college football. I'm expecting to have obviously a great crowd and a lot of support. And our guys are really fired up to be back home and get back on the winning side here on the blue.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Thanks, Rick.
Hey, Tim, how important is John Ajuku to your unit's success, and how would you describe his work ethic on and off the field?
Now, if not the most important guy on offense, he's right there. I think he's had a great year just with what he's been able to do, and from a leadership standpoint, he's getting better every week. He's one of those guys like that. We always say, "Are you willing to take your cool shoes off? Like, are you going to do the right thing? Are you going to do the cool thing?" And a lot of guys, 18 to 22, now I'll be the first to admit too, for me, like when I was 18 to 22, I'm going to do the cool thing. You know what I mean? But like if OJ's not in a drill, right? If you guys came out to practice and saw like a practice and maybe the second unit's in there and they're doing some reps, OJ is standing 10 yards away, lined up in his stance, going full speed, right? As if he's running the play. And if we're like, "Hey, OJ, we're going to take you out for," it's like he's going to get into a WWE wrestling match every time you try to get him out of a rep. He's just got a relentless drive to be really good. And that is trickling down to other players on offense. So that's what makes him so monumental in what we're doing. It's just his ability to bring his attitude and his work ethic to everybody else. And that's what makes him a special player.
What did you think of CT's performance Saturday?
Yeah, it was great to get him going. I know that obviously he's had a great career here. And for whatever reason, again, not by design, things just hadn't gotten to him. We had dropped a couple balls, but thought we did a good job getting him involved, and we want to get him involved as much as we can. So I was happy to see him get some touches and some big plays and got him on the sweeps. And that, I know he's returning kicks again. So I think, again, everyone's kind of starting to get more rhythm in what we're doing offensively. And I think we had 9 different rushers and 9 different guys catch a pass or something like that. I mean, to me, that's beautiful football. If we can get everybody involved and everyone feels a part of it, super, super important. So hopefully we can get them the ball even more. That's the hope, Will.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Hey, Tim, now that you've added this extra little running element to Hank Bachmeier's game, you talked about protecting him. And I know you've been talking about protecting him from day one, because that's been an issue from day one. How do you coach protection to a quarterback?
Well, it starts with him understanding the protections, Mike. A lot of college programs, they don't ask the quarterback to be in charge of the protections. They have the center and the O-line manage all the protections. And they do that to take more off of his plate. We don't do that here. So he's in charge of the protection. So anytime there's a free hitter or things like that, that's on him. That's not on the O-line. And so that allows him to be aware of the issues up front in protection. And hopefully he knows where things are hot and where things are supposed to come from, so he can hold the offensive line and everybody accountable. The second part of that is teaching them how to get through a progression and get the ball out on time, because that's when quarterbacks are going to get hit. When they hold on to the ball too long, that's when they get hit. And that's really been his issue in the past, is him holding on to the ball too long. And then lastly, when they do become a runner, understanding that part of their position grading and part of their, leadership is that they can't take hits. So they've been given the opportunity as quarterbacks to slide, and they will allow them not to get hit. So we got to use that rule, get out of bounds and not take direct hits. And if you look at guys like Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray and guys that run all the time, they seem to never get hit, right? And so there's a part of that he has to take responsibility and try to keep as many of those hits down, especially if we're going to use him in the running game.
You guys have talked a lot about, you and your offensive staff are juggling like crazy on the offensive line, Monday through Friday, in games on Saturday. How frustrating is that? And how close are you to what you think should be your dependable starting 5 offensive linemen?
Yeah, I think it's, there's a positive and a negative, Mike. The positive is guys are getting an opportunity to play. And if they get an opportunity to play, then they're going to develop meaningful reps that'll hopefully improve their game. But the negative, obviously, is offensive line is one of those position groups that if you can have a consistent communication with a consistent group, you're going to have more success. And unfortunately, we've just had some injuries and consistently can't keep guys healthy right now. And so when that happens, there's going to be a lot of shifting and moving going on. And but like I was telling you guys before, Mike, every team is young, thin, and beat up. Like if you ask every coach, he's like, "Oh man, we got a lot of young guys. We're really beat up. We're thin." Everyone says the same thing. It's not an excuse. We got to figure out a way to get the guys out there that can help us win. And so we'll keep doing everything we can to get the right guys out there. And if it's 5, 6, 7, 8 different guys, we'll do whatever we need to do to win that game that week. And then we'll come back on Sunday and see who made it out.
Tim, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Bob, John, and Matt.
Coach, every team seems to do something unique, unlike the pros where it seems like everything's kind of the same. So what makes Nevada's defense unique, and what do they do best?
Well, I think one of the things that makes them a good defense is they are simplistic in nature, but that allows them to make every look the same. And that's kind of what and the defenses I've gone against that have been always the best are the guys that they don't do a whole bunch, but the things that they do, they all look exactly the same. And I think if you can create that defensively, then you're going to create a lot of hesitation from the quarterback spot. And that's really what all defenses are trying to do, is make that guy hesitate. And I think they've been able to do that a lot. And that's what's gotten them a lot of sacks, is the quarterback just being unsure of what he's seeing because everything looks the same. So they've done a great job of creating a system where their guys can play really confidently, because it's not a lot of stuff, but they do it all really, really well, and it all looks the same. So it's tough for the quarterback.
You've played quarterback and you've coordinated. When you have a quarterback that will run some, I'm not talking about somebody that's going to, run it all the time. but somebody that's going to run some. What does that do to the defense?
Oh, it is a great equalizer. And in the shotgun offense, if you can't run your quarterback, Bob, it just makes things start to stack up against you because the defense knows he's not going to run. So they can almost X him out of the run fit. And that's why you have to run so many RPOs and throw the football when they stack with those numbers instead of running the football. But then like you guys have seen, then we end up throwing the ball way more than we want to because they're going to force us to throw it knowing that he can't run. So whenever you have a quarterback that can run and be a serious threat, then the defense has to make a decision on how they want to add into the run fit, whether that's, usually what you're going to have to do is you're going to come out of a one high defense and you're going to have to add that extra safety into the run fit. And that obviously, if you get an extra safety down the run fit, then the wide receivers are going to have a chance to go over the top. So just the amount of looks that you're going to see, it's going to be simplified. And that's why, in college over the 10, 20 years, you've seen those guys that can run and what that does to a defense. It makes things really difficult. The negative to that, Bob, as we know, is every time the quarterback takes a hit, you run the risk of that being the last hit he's going to take. And so you just got to try to manage that the best you can.
Thanks, Coach.
Neighbor, thank you.
Hey, Coach. Was Kent Riddle in the booth to replace you? Is that how they switched it?
Yep, Coach Ridd was in the booth. Yep.
How did that help? I would imagine if there's a guy you'd want in the booth, it'd be Riddle. He's just seen everything and he's been everywhere. How did that help having Riddle kind of be your eyes up top because you're now on the sideline?
Yeah, I think everything you said, John, is right on. Coach Avalos talked to the offensive staff. We kind of bounced a couple ideas around on what we thought would work. But just like you said, a guy that's been around the game as long as he has, coached a lot of different positions, seen a lot of football. He has the ability to see the whole field. And so he can give me the information that I would probably get myself if I was up there. He did a tremendous job giving us the information we needed throughout the game. And a lot of that was our second half. John, we'd struggled in the second half, as you guys know. And, we've been working all last week on how can we get better in the third quarter? How can we get off to a better start? And a lot of that is just in-game communication. And still didn't score as many points as we could have in the third quarter there, but did move the ball with more consistency. And I think he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Thanks, Coach.